To tweet or not to tweet? That is the question. President Trump's latest wave of Twitter comments prompting concern from political allies and the Wall Street Journal's editorial board, which unleashed a scathing condemnation, declaring, quote, in 140-character increments, Mr. Trump diminished his own standing by causing a minor international incident, demonstrated that the loyalty he demands of the people who work for him isn't reciprocal, set back his policy goals, and wasted time. Mark it down as further evidence that the most effective opponent of the Trump presidency is Donald J. Trump. So is Twitter the president's secret weapon, or is it his Achilles heel? Here to discuss, Tammy Bruce, Rich Lowry, and Sarah Westwood. Tammy Bruce, I got to start with you first. I will say, before we start, guys, I've got a Twitter poll up. It's been up for an hour. To tweet or not to tweet? 41% say slow down. 59% so far say keep on tweeting, Mr. President.
Yeah, not that I have any opinions here on this, but look, this is the same complaints through the campaign. He was going to destroy himself. He's going to make it impossible to win. He's a menace for himself. He's his own worst enemy. What we found out is that none of that was true. It is different. For some, it's jarring. But I think that it's a mistake for those who've enjoyed his approach, who see the success that he's had as an individual. To ask that kind of person to change is a problem. And it doesn't mean that we're not going to have some problems on occasion when it comes to how he does approach things, because that's part of the revolution. I view it, and I think that his supporters view it in that way as well. And yes, of course, it's irritating to the establishment. It's like a different language entirely. And we're trying to use, transcorders or something to try to figure out what he's saying. But he knows what he's doing. It's the nature of his style, and that will translate into how successful his work ends up becoming. Well,
one thing for sure, Rich, is he controls the narrative, right? Every single morning, I don't care what you thought you were going to do that day as a journalist, President Trump sets the narrative for Washington, D.C., for the journalistic community, and for most of the nation.
Yeah, your question was powerful tool or Achilles heel. It's both. And what makes this different than a campaign, the latest tweet storm, is he has an audience of one on this case that's eventually going to make it to the Supreme Court. It's Anthony Kennedy. Anything designed to sway him in the right direction is good. Anything that hurts persuading him is bad. And that's why you saw George Conway, Kellyanne's husband, saying, please, don't do this. I'm a strong supporter of yours. I want your agenda to succeed. I want this case to succeed. So smart clients let their lawyers speak for them in the courtroom, and that's what he needs to do on this travel ban.
Right, and Sarah, it's not just Kellyanne's husband. The Wall Street Journal, that's a conservative editorial board. Mitch McConnell just a couple of hours ago saying he wishes the president would slow down. Yet, my unscientific poll, 59% is saying tweet more, Mr. President. We want to hear from you, not the mainstream media.
There are a certain number of his supporters who are going to embrace the president no matter what that includes through the thick and thin of his controversial tweets, but the campaign provided different incentives for crazy tweets than the presidency does. Back then it was to his favor to soak up all the oxygen in the news cycle with whatever point he felt like making that day. Right now, he's taking focus away from other things he needs to get done, like his legislative agenda, and he's putting Republicans on Capitol Hill in the awkward position occasionally of having to answer for tweets that are sometimes controversial or downright inaccurate. That's not a position he wants to put Republicans in, particularly when he needs them to get his agenda passed.
I would suggest, though, let's not mistake just because the media only covers his tweets that's the only thing going on. The president is not just tweeting. He is clearly making a difference on the foreign policy front. He is meeting, obviously, with people today regarding the legislative front, having dinner with leaders in Congress tonight. He's operating as a very active president on many fronts. Very often in media, we can see what we're covering, and we think that's the only thing that's occurring. It's not. And I would suggest also that if tweets alone would change a Supreme Court justice's attitude and opinion, that's a problem for that Supreme Court justice. It doesn't mean it won't happen.
Welcome to the world of Anthony Kennedy.
Well,
and look, it's supposed to be Infrastructure Week. Tweet about infrastructure. Tweet one of your major priorities is manufacturing. You talk about manufacturing and the revival a lot. Tweet about that. There are all sorts of ways he could be helping his message rather than undercutting.
I always say I wish Trump would at least tweet my commentary every morning a couple times, only because most of the time I'm pointing out the good stuff that's happening in this country. But Sarah, to that point, President Trump has to speak directly to the American people because the good stuff won't get out there otherwise. So to a degree, he must tweet. He must go on Facebook. He must communicate with the American public that will only hear from a mainstream media that does not like him.
Right. There are ways to use Twitter effectively to communicate his message.
I think he's pretty effective. He's got like 100 million followers.
Absolutely. But to Tammy's point, President Trump knows that the media is biased against him. That's just a fact. That's the structure, the frame of the situation that he's in. So he can choose to ignore that fact and continue to hammer on the media, or understand that that's the dynamics of Washington, and beat them at their own game by refusing to give them a shiny object to run away with, forcing them to cover things like infrastructure week that he wants to draw attention to.
But it's not going to change, right, Tammy? I mean, I know it's early on, but all signs say that, hey, the president continues to say that he confounded the experts who told him not to do this in the first place, and it propelled him to the White House. Why would he change?
Look, he has also a history of success. Let's remember this. This is not somebody who's trying something new. This is a man who's been successful in life and successful with his business. I know politics in Washington are not the Trump Tower, but this is what we want to have change. Also, the other issue, of course, is that you've got a media that if he's not giving them a shiny object, they'll make something up. They'll find something. It'll be gossip, as we've been dealing with for the last several months, of course. So he might as well be himself. He's a smart man. He knows what's at stake. He also wants to win. He wants to succeed, and we need to help him get there.
But, Rich, politicians, Republican politicians, Mitch McConnell a couple hours ago voicing his disdain. I saw a video where Bob Corker was looking at someone's Twitter, and he's just shaking his head. Are they also using this to a degree because they can't get their act together as a smokescreen? Hey, you know what? If the president stopped tweeting, we could pass tax reform.
Yeah, look, there's a lot of failure to go around here, and it's going to look really bad for Senate Republicans if they can't get that repeal and replace bill off the floor. And it's an open question whether they can or not. And Mitch McConnell's point to Trump is always, be boring. Be more boring. Donald Trump, surely, Tammy is right, would not be president of the United States if he had been boring, if he had been Mitch McConnell. But there is things to be learned in this new position that he's in. But the clinching argument he's always going to have was that anyone comes to him and says, do it differently, as you guys alluded to, I'm more famous, I'm richer, and I'm more powerful than you. Who are you to tell me not to do it my way?
And I also go to sleep in the White House every single night.